welcome Lakshmi to the ChangeMaker 20 Summit. We are very, very grateful that you've agreed to be a part of the summit and sort of share your work with us. Um, so the ChangeMaker 20 Summit is a one of its kind summit under the aegis of G20 and a couple of more tracks, which is the C20 and the Y20, Civil Societies 20 and the Youth 20 as well. And basically what we are trying to do with the ChangeMaker 20 Summit is not just be here and sort of have plenty of discussions. We are also trying to unite for a higher purpose. The summit basically aims to forge connections beyond boundaries and celebrate the potency of collaboration. So we've collaborated with multiple partners from across the globe, and we sort of want to take their work forward and also strive towards change making through youth voices. So the summit is also about charting new territories, confronting global challenges, and uniting under the banner of a positive change. We are gathered here for this interesting change maker journey with Lakshmi, and unfortunately, there's Srishti also, who was supposed to be a part of this, but Srishti could not join, so I would be speaking on Srishti's behalf. The topic for today's changemaker journey is innovation for women's safety and empowerment. I'll briefly speak a little bit about Lakshmi. So, Lakshmi is an author, social innovation strategist, and a sustainability educator from Kerala. She's founded Maanushi Foundation, which is a non-profit organization based out of Idukki. She's currently a research scholar at the Department of English at Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, Coimbatore. And Lakshmi, very happy to have you here. The floor is yours. Please start.
Thank you, Alicia. So I hope my voice is clear. As you all know, my association with ChangeMaker Fellowship, it's something that really supported us as an organization to redefine what we want to do in the work that we were doing. So I would just give a very brief presentation of what we have been doing, and more so about the story of what we have been doing, because I think that is truly what matters when it comes to change making, or let's say when we are talking about innovations for women's safety or for their empowerment. It's largely very context specific, something that is very unique and specific to the cultural and social spaces that we are working with and the people that we are working with. So to give a brief introduction about what Maanushi as an organization is. So in the year 2020, this is a time when the first wave of COVID was happening. It is at that point in time that it occurred to us that there's a whole issue of menstrual waste that is not properly managed in our village. And so I come from a village called Kumuli. It's one of the mountain villages in Western Ghats. So we don't have, a system where the sanitary waste was being properly managed. So the Panchayat stopped taking the waste. So that is when we had an issue of, there is a problem at hand. Otherwise, when I was studying or when we were in the cities, it was much of an easy thing, like the corporation will take care of the waste and we did not have to. So I personally looked for options which is otherwise, which is sustainable, or which doesn't create waste. That's when me and Pooja, who's the co-founder, we came across EcoFem as an organization, and we switched to cloth pads as a sustainable period product. So this is the point when we realized, this is not just our personal issue. This is something which is a collective problem for all the women in our community. So we took it out to our people. We started talking about menstruation. We started talking about sustainable period practices. And this is the time when we realized there is a huge information gap. So even among women who have given birth 2 or 3 times, they were still not aware of what their body is, how their body functions, what happens during periods. So there was a huge information gap that we were addressing. So we were working with women on one level, and we were working with adolescent girls on one level. So it is this work that we did with women that brought to light the fact that there was a huge problem of economic sustenance. So because when the pandemic hit, people did not have a source of livelihood which was constant. They would have work sometime, they would not have work other times. And that is a time when we saw that a lot of our women were struggling to get their basic needs met. So the thing was like when we were distributing reusable cloth bags to people, they were saying that this is a huge relief because even to keep aside 100 rupees to buy sanitary pads a month was becoming difficult. So this is the point where we started our economic initiatives, for which I was part of the ChangeMaker fellowship to you know broaden the scope of it and make it into a much more organized and probably a bigger program than what we have been doing. So the thing is like whenever we talk about change making or whenever we talk about innovations, it cannot happen uh, in a textbook manner. It's always, we go into the field, maybe we go there for a different reason. For us, we went there for talking about menstrual cycle, and we talk about sustainable period practices, but we ended up realizing that there's a social justice issue. We ended up realizing that there is an economic disparity that is happening, and that is when an innovation had to be found out, which was very geography centric, because we were in the middle of the pandemic, so we cannot ask people to come out of their homes and do something. So we had to find out something that people could do in their own homes, in within their area, which was giving them a source of livelihood. So that was the kind of innovation that we had to work out, and we also had to work out something that was being consumed within the community. Because if we create something that requires a huge logistic support, huge marketing support, it wouldn't be possible because we don't have the money to do that. The second thing, it's a pandemic, no one is coming out. We were going through the second wave of the pandemic when we actually shaped the whole project. So I guess innovation is something that comes to us when we sit together and when we try to understand what is it that we want out of a given situation. So it's never about what is it that Lakshmi can do. It's never about what Alicia can do. It's about what needs to be done. And I guess this has been my biggest takeaway from the whole fellowship journey. When Amit sir said like, don't be a bottleneck to your own project, because it's never about what Lakshmi can do, but at the end of the day, it's about what needs to be done. What is the change that we need to bring about? So this is the whole trajectory of what we have been doing. So I'll take you through the process and what we have been able to do in the past 1 year, to be exact. So I'll share my screen with you. And yes, we have been an organization that was founded in the year 2020 December. And like I told you, so we have been largely working on driving sensitization campaigns on menstrual health education and sustainable menstrual practices. And in the recent years, so we have moved into creating awareness about sexual and reproductive health and rights awareness, and also to address what are the issues that our community is facing with respect to climate change and how can we address those issues. Because this was not part of the initial plan, like I said, but right now as we see that so those of you who are listening, I'm from Kerala, and Kerala is a place where we have very heavy monsoon, and this is the month of August, and we're supposed to have a monsoon from June to August, and we have not had proper rains. So the climate change is really affecting communities, and that means climate change is going to really have an impact on our area more specifically, because it's a farming based ecosystem that we have. So right now we are forced to look at how can we address what will be the changes that the community has to go through in order to make themselves sustainable in the face of climate change that is happening. And we are also been working around distributing reusable cloth pads and menstrual products to women. And as part of this project, we got in touch with the reality that we need to do something for the economic initiative. And that's when we started a rural incubator project, where we started supporting women entrepreneurs to launch and also to uh, nurture their small home businesses so that they could create a livelihood. And we developed an e-commerce platform to do the same. So another thing that we have been largely working around is in the area of how we can create an ecosystem of responsible consumption and production, which is one of our SDGs. And for this, the other aspects of the work is largely in the community, and the part of developing an organic group of people who would invest in responsible consumption is the awareness part of the work that we do of the community, which is largely online work. I mean, talking with groups of people, having a social media handle, all of those work that became imperative in the second stage of our activity, because we realized that it's what we can do in the geographical space is limited, and it is quite in terms of, like, maybe we could do very limited activities in that space. But once we step out of that, and once we start creating an ecosystem outside of that, there is a possibility to scale up the work in a different way. And that is the work we have been doing in the area of creating a community of online. And we have been recognized by the I am Bangalore at SRSL, where we pitched a project. We were in the pre-incubation phase, and I was part of the Global ChangeMaker Fellowship. We were also part of highest cohort, where one of our team members got trained as a reproductive rights educator, and we were also recognized by Vikalpa Sangam and the Civil 20 initiative, where we presented what we have been doing as part of the incubator. So these are some of the recognitions we have had over the years with our work. And to to retell the story of how we began, it started with this one statement by one of the women that we were working. We really, that is a point where we decided, okay, we need to do something about it. So when a person says that, she really wishes, she wants to earn 1,000 rupees extra so that she could buy milk for her children, it shows us that when we're talking about livelihood, or when we're talking about income generation activities, it is largely, in big numbers. We talk about organizations starting business units for communities and employing people into these business units or social enterprise ventures. But often what happens is that the number of people that we can accommodate in those spaces becomes very limited, and we are yet again asking people to rely on a third party to find a livelihood. So what we wanted to interfere is, because I'm not someone who would be full time engaged as a social worker. So I had a plan to be in the academics. So I was planning to pursue my PhD. So I had to make sure that I established something that would run even without me. So that was the agenda that we were working on. It was always like, how can we equip people to find their own means towards it. So this was realized largely by speaking with people and identifying what is their skill set, so that we could create a livelihood out of it. And there, it was also not necessary that we had to find a full-time livelihood initiative for the people, because it was largely also a supplementary livelihood initiative. So that was one thing that that was not existent, or there was no model which I could refer to understand how it would work, because we are only used to systems or models where we establish a business venture, or we establish something for the people and they benefit out of it. So there was nothing which was available for me as a reference to see how can we create supplementary income for people. How can we help them run things which if they don't have a certain educational social capital with them, how can they find alternate streams of income. So there was no existing model with which I could work, but somehow we sat together and figured out how we could do this as a team. So like I said, Kumli is actually a mountain village which is in the Western Ghats. So one of the major disadvantages that we have is the terrain that we are in. So we are quite disconnected from the possibilities of finding jobs in the cities. Like, there's very limited job opportunities that you can find in a village like Kumli. So, and also it also meant that there was a limitation on how many people could access education. because this we have primary education, basic education, and very recently we have colleges coming up in Kumri. So that means the community that we are working with is not with the benefit of higher education. So we always had to like work around those variables, so that we are we're not creating disruptive changes that are that might backfire. So we're working with tribal communities, we're working with people living in the forest fringe areas, we're also working with people who are Tamil speaking communities. So there's a whole different group of people that we're working with. So the cultural sensitivities are so high. So it's not one cultural situation that we're looking at, we're looking at multiple cultural sensitivities. So even talking about something as simple as menstrual health education to these communities in different places, we've got different responses. So when we go in there and say that, we want to do women empowerment or economic empowerment for women, then there's always a very complicated narrative, because it's like why am I not feeding you properly is the question that probably the men in the house would ask. Then how would the women respond to it? So in a broader scheme of things, these are variables which will eventually stop such systems from existing by itself, because if we had to set the inspiration straight. And I guess that is the part which actually took the longest, because setting an inspiration for why they should work on their own employment, why they should work on their own businesses, is what had to be that was the uphill task for us, because it would have been much easier if we started a unit and employed people. But then we did not want to do that, because that wouldn't make sense at the end of the day towards what we were doing. And so when we spoke, when we were speaking about livelihood initiative, another aspect that we wanted to address was how could we create livelihoods that were sustainable and eco-friendly. So when we are talking about sustainability, which is hugely used term in the current scenario, uh, there's a whole at one point I was really ashamed of saying sustainable, because it's like, oh my god, it's again the whole cliche thing of sustainability coming into the picture. But so by sustainable, the idea was this: it should be something that doesn't further the damage that has been already done to the ecosystem. So we come from a very fragile ecosystem. So when I say fragile, because we see the effect of climate change firsthand. So it's not like the valleys. It's a mountain area, and there's landslide. There's when there is a drought, it's very severe. We don't have water to drink. Then we, at most points we don't have enough roads going to communities. So these are all issues that we have been seeing at first hand. What is the impact of climate change? So it's rather a very strong imperative for us as an organization that whatever we do doesn't further the damage that we have already caused to the ecosystem that we're part of. So we wanted to find businesses or ventures that women can take up, for which they also have the skill, or for which we can train them, which are sustainable in nature, and also which doesn't require a huge capital. So that was also one of the key aspects that we wanted to look at, because when we say we are doing a rural incubator, oftentimes it's like we have incubators across the country, very strong spaces where we can escalate our businesses. But most of the time those are hugely investment, we need a huge capital for those ventures. And so we're not looking at people who are trained in businesses, right? So we're looking at livelihood. So we wanted to find something which whose financial aspects were manageable for the community. So there is something something that I've always looked at in terms of working in the communities. E.F. Schumacher's "Small is Beautiful." It's a book in which he talks about any business, like this the capital for which should not be larger than what we earn in a period of year. It shouldn't be larger than that. So in that way, we wanted to make sure that we are building a system through which we invest in small systems which can be slowly scaled up. rather than suddenly pushing something and scaling it up to a point where it's like we don't have enough resources to manage it or enough skill set to manage it. So um, there was no rush to become big, and I think that is one of the key aspects of what Maanushi as an organization has been doing, because from the beginning there is that agenda that we set straight, that we are not looking at it as any other capitalistic venture where we're constantly pushing for growth, because that kind of growth, I personally believe, is not natural or that exists organically. So let's see how we can build this organically was one of the key agendas that we had as an organization. And another aspect of what we have been working on is how we would uh, create consumers for the products which were from the community itself. So we wanted to make products that people would consume every day, or people had a demand for every day, because those were the things that required less capital also. For instance, we started a soap making unit, we started a curry powders unit, we started a pickles unit, we had a mushroom unit. So all of these items are things that people consume on an everyday basis, or for which they have a demand on an everyday basis. So this meant we did not have to depend largely on marketing strategies or logistics supports, but human connections were enough for us to create a sustainable livelihood initiative there. So we see that with our soap unit, we have seen that people who have bought handmade soaps from us, the first time they bought it, they bought one. The next time they bought it, they bought five. And after that, they've been buying 10 or 15 soaps, because they spoke about it to their people, and then they have a collective interest towards it. So with whatever little information on technology that we had, we set up a website, an e-commerce platform, because we did not have the money to spend on hiring someone for it. We upskilled ourselves, we learned how to do an e-commerce website, we learned how to do our own website. So these are the kind of things that takes time. So it would have been faster if we consulted a third party, like spent money on it. It would have been faster. It might have been even more, prettier in terms of its interface. But the thing is, we did it, and I guess that is one of the core areas of the work that we've been doing. We upskilled ourselves. That is part of the empowerment. That is part of innovation. Because if I may say, I got the honor or the privilege of being educated. I'm doing my PhD now, but I come from a village, and I come from a space where we had very limited access. So this is actually setting the tone for people who are coming after us. For And I think that is where our work is important to us as people who are doing it, and for our community, because it is in a way saying that it's possible for us to do it. So we just have to like set the intention and find the resources to do it. So we started with two women entrepreneurs, and we had a small WhatsApp community of buyers, and then we slowly built a small website to put up the products. And then we had like five people doing ventures based out of Kumli, creating a revenue of over 1 lakh, which is in the first 4 months of doing it. And that's when we got a small grant from an organization called Shafina Foundation. And we got a small seed capital that we could give to the people. And then by the fourth quarter of this initiative, when we launched the whole program, we have 12 women-led ventures, and we have a system in place which functions as a rural incubator. And so far we have had an overall sales of close to 3.5 lakhs. This is the latest value is close to 3.5 lakhs. So this the thing that I'm saying is, this is starting from a capital of 5,000. That is where I think it's beautiful, because we're not looking at business with a huge investment. We're just looking at what we were able to do with a very small amount, with people who are not trained in business, with people who have no technological background, coming together to do this because this is a requirement. And I think that is the quotient of innovation. Like, we innovate when we have a requirement, and then we pull in all possible resources to make it happen. We learn, we spend our time, we invest in it. And for me, one of the best experiences was being part of the fellowship, where I saw other people who are similar in the journey, uh, doing it, and that really inspires us to step up our game. Because okay, if there's someone doing it, then there's a hope that we can also pull it through. And collaborations as far as possible, because at the end of the day, the beauty of whatever we do in the sector of social work is that it's replicable, and that it goes on to create that ripple effect. So whatever we are doing here, the beauty of it is that it is replicable. It can be done anywhere else, because we're not looking at creating markets outside of the geographical community. We're looking at creating markets within the geographical space where these people exist. So and this is like the key impacts of that we have been doing. And like I said, we also invested largely in creating training workshops as well. So this meant that whatever is in our capacity, whatever we have learned, we have been giving it out to people as well. And this meant that we already have a system where people could approach us to understand how they can take forward their livelihood initiative, or how they can bring in money to scale up their venture, or how they can bring in technology to scale up their venture. All of those information we already have it as a template on which people can work. And I think that foundation work is crucial in terms of how much work they have to do later. So now we have done the homework, so people just have to take it and stand on it and build their own. So that's one thing I personally feel have been a impact that we could do. And in terms of creating economic independence to rural women, it's oftentimes looked at as like how much money do they get. But I think with the people that we have been working on, it is that feeling that they can take care of themselves, that they can build their own livelihoods, that it is possible for them to find solutions to their problems. That agency is what through Manushi's work we have been able to give. And that when I hear some of our members come up with ideas saying, let's do this, like this is something that could have a market, I could do this because this is something that is in my capacity. When they come up with those ideas, I personally feel very happy, because that's the whole thing that we wanted to do. It's not the numbers, it's not the how much volume of work we do, but the agency that has been created as a result of this work. And that is where it is truly crucial for us as a collective. And to wind up, I think this is all that I wanted to share, is that we need community to sustain sustainable business ventures. So the other day I was speaking to a friend of mine who runs a botanical prints fashion brand, and she was saying that it is maybe 20 people who decide to say that I'll only buy clothes from hibiscus heroes because I align with the brand and I align with the values of the brand. And then there's a community which buys from you, which creates livelihood as a result of this buying. So investing in that community is one of the core work that we need to do if we want any of these projects to be sustainable. Because when it is a social enterprise and when there is some sort of a business involved, I think it is the story that moves people. It is it is that sense of belonging to a community, being part of an initiative that is meaningful to them, is what nurtures their ability to come back to it. Because sustainability at its core is not convenient. Sustainability is if you want to compost, it's not easy, it's not convenient. It's convenient to throw the garbage outside, but sustainability requires commitment, and that commitment can come only with a sense of community. And that is what we have been working on. And as it is a very replicable model, I think it is really that is the only thing that I would like to share is, take it forward in whatever capacity we can in communities that we are part of, because it is those micro communities which will be the future of our economic and social structures, because we cannot be looking at anything if we are not looking at the smaller scape of things, at the smaller geographical spaces that we inhabit. Because a bigger policy level changes, yes, they are needed and they're coming, they are they're doing its thing, but if that changes have to reflect, we have to take ownership of it at small community level initiatives, at geographical spaces where we inhabit, and there is no other way to go about it. Whether it is planting your own food item, to making your own soaps, or whatever, sustainability can happen only when we go very specific to the local ecosystems that we are part of. So yeah, so that is where I would close the discussion from my end. So I guess I don't think I overstepped my time. Thank you so much. So that's about the work that we do and the story behind the work that we do.
Thank you so much, Lakshmi. I mean, I just the thing you kept saying one by one, and I would just like to point out a few major takeaways for myself from this discussion of yours. Firstly, you sort of breaking the ceiling. I'm not the ceiling of sort of achieving higher education. The agency that you had, the wish, the your will to sort of go ahead and seek higher education, like you said that your village does not have a lot of scope of higher education, and you sort of stepped out of that comfort space and took higher education up for yourself. That is point number one. To have that agency, to sort of have that decision making skill is very, very well appreciated. The second is going back and doing something for your community. I know that this sounds very cliche in theory, but for somebody to actually be able to do that, to go back to your own community and do something for themselves, it is a huge thing. And you're doing that, and you're doing that in collaboration with people from the community. I mean, both these things, they sound very simple to hear, but thinking of an idea which will bring in collaboration from the community, it is a very good idea actually. Then you spoke about something that is personally very close to my heart. Is I had actually worked on a research project which spoke about the sexual and reproductive health rights of women. And one thing that you mentioned was about the disposal of sanitary waste. And that took me back to that research. And I have had heard women actually say that they wouldn't want to opt for a particular sanitary product because of the lack of good disposals. So again, working towards that, your the sort of thing that you do, working towards bridging that gap between people and using products which would be sustainable to the planet and also good for themselves. You are doing something that is also amazing. And the the way you're putting forward the idea behind Manushi, and the kind of things that you have done, the kind of scale that you've already achieved with the starting amount of 5,000 rupees, and now you said 3.5 lakhs is the last update. I mean, I want to extend a very heartfelt congratulations to you, to your team. It's very inspiring. People generally, a lot of people stop at an idea, they don't really pursue that idea, but you are constantly striving towards that with such a nice collaboration with the community members. And you're so profound in the way you speak. It's You're really an inspiration, Lakshmi. Thank you very much. I just there were some questions that were asked. I don't know. The first question is, how do we ensure women's safety? I think this question would have been better fielded at the other participant. Unfortunately, she is not there. I'll take up this question later on. Somebody has asked, like lots of organization and universities are giving leverage to the women. Is this the right way, right, while they are talking about gender equality? I'm sorry, Manshu, I don't think I understand your question. Lakshmi, I think they are making weak by giving women leverage.
So I have a
Would you like
comment on that actually, because I am
Yeah.
someone who studies gender for my academic purpose. So when we talk about reservations, or when we talk about giving privileges for women candidates, or like when we talk about reservation in general, we're not actually looking at it as a, okay, we'll give them this much thing and so that they can come up. No, we are bridging the disproportionate activities that were done throughout history. So imagine, it's pretty much like, you have two plants growing in your home, and then one plant, you put in all the nutrients, you put in all the good water, you give it enough sunlight, and then you put one plant and you don't do anything for it for 10 years. And then one day when you come and say that, you're both equal, and why is the other one not growing, it doesn't make sense. So the only way in which we can make sense right now is to give the other plant more space, more sunlight, more manure, so that it can at least come to the point where the other plant is right now. So that is how reservations work. It's not about making the new plant seem like a weak person. No, the plant which couldn't grow did not have the space or the opportunities. So the only way to bridge that gap is to give it more right now. It's not about treating the other person as smaller. So that's a very politically nuanced thing, because reservations at the core of it is bridging that. I know how much unfair we have been systemically to certain groups of people. That includes women, people from marginalized communities, and even geographical areas. So there's always that part. It's always bridging that political disparity that exists in the socioeconomic structures. So I hope I answered that.
Very, very well put. I mean, very nice. The explained one, Shrishti. I think. Thanks for satisfying me with your answer. Okay, so the person who has raised the question is extremely satisfied with your response, and I don't know. I'm at a loss of words, but I hope I have extended my appreciation to you. It was really lovely hearing you speak,
Thank you.
and I hope more power to you, more power to the people you work with, and just on a very light note, I hope that because you explain things very well, I hope that your business does scale up one day, your non-profit does scale up one day, and I personally want to see you on platforms like Shark Tank, pitching for more good high-scaled investors to sort of invest in your thing,
Yes.
because this is something that we really need.
Yes.
We do need this. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Real.
Now I'll just take. Thank you. And lovely to have you. Lovely to hear you speak. I'll just take some time before closing this session to speak about the other participants' innovation. Her name is Srishti. Srishti unfortunately couldn't participate with us today, but we'll briefly understand what the kind of work that she does towards how she sort of aligns women's empowerment and innovation. So I'll share my screen. Okay, thank you, Ashish. I'll briefly give a description about the product that you just saw. So this is essentially known as Shakti Wearables. This is by Shrishti Sharma. So the kind of product, it's a smart wearable. It's like a smartwatch. However, what it does, it essentially works like a taser, and the purpose behind it too is bringing feasible and practical executional solution to women-centric crimes such as rapes, domestic violence, sexual harassment, etc. Despite the ever-increasing women-centric crimes, where unfortunately even today, every 16 minutes, one woman in India gets raped, there is no single dedicated device that allows an average Indian woman to solve this endangered problem on her own from end to end. Shakti is India's first women's safety self-defense wearable, which is a safety band when in use and a fashion accessory when not. A handband that can electrify an attacker. So it's a handband that can electrify an attacker on a button press by emitting a non-deadly electric current sufficient to lower down the nervous system of an attacker for 5 minutes, and rebound time around 10 to 12 minutes, and simultaneously it also sends the wearer's live location to friends and family via WhatsApp and text messages. So the societal impact that Shakti makes is it is an attempt to solve years old problem by presenting a solution that can prevent such criminal cases and give the safety of women in their own hands, making them empower in true sense. With current available solution in the market, there is no solution that allows women to solve the endangered problem on their own, and there is a extreme high dependence on police and government. Shakti wearables take extreme proud to create multiple channels to reach the women of this country by not just providing it at a minimal cost, but also distribute it for free to the underprivileged women. As of now, the impact that Shakti has made is the survey sample with more than 3,500 plus women, out of which 78% said yes to a product like Shakti. In the process of distributing free Shakti bands to more than 800 women in the village of Bhiwadi and Mandawar in Haryana, it remembers Nirbhaya and promotes a solution oriented approach to the women. It's a tribute to Nirbhaya. It also gives free self defense training to more than 300 girls and women of Haryana. And the soft interest and commitment received by various state government bodies and state governments and bodies like Women Commission Cell. So I am sure if Shrishti was present today, she would have shed even more light on the innovation that she has made, and we would know more about it. However, along with the recording that we are doing for this event, I will also share the link to Srishti's innovation, so that more and more people can read about it and know what Shakti is and what Shakti does. Great. So this brings us to the end of our session. I am extremely proud, happy, and inspired by Lakshmi and Shrishti and the kind of innovation that they have made to make the economy, the country, the communities more gender equitable. And I give more, and I hope there is more and more power in their hands and the kind of people they work with, so that gender equality just does not remain as an SDG. It is a more realized goal. And thank you so much for being a part of this ChangeMaker 20 summit and presenting your work, Lakshmi. We hope you get more and more avenues to present your work and more people to work with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for to the participants and to the people who have taken time out to participate in this event and asked questions. I hope this event, this such session was enlightening to you as it was for me. I hope it was inspiring as much as it was to me. And thank you so much, Lakshmi. You're very welcome to sort of participate in the other sessions as well. And thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.